And so, of course, we are all calling in from different territories with this the magic of the internet. So today we are going to be just sharing some stories of sort of work and experiences that we've been having the past year or so related to Kairos. We're kind of at a turning point in the year in many ways. Many cultures and faith traditions, end of October into November is a time for kind of seeing the twilight of the year, the death of the year in some sense. We spend time remembering loved ones who have passed away. We spend time remembering past tragedies and atrocities that have happened in the past, those who have died fighting in war, those who have been casualties to war. And so November is often a time that we have a lot of focus on sort of death and dying and things passing away. As we start moving into December, as we get into sort of the midnight of the year, in some senses, the darkest part of the year, the coldest part of the year for many of us, many of our faith traditions are also going into the season of Advent, where we begin to light our homes in various ways and add decorations as we approach Christmas and other solstice celebrations to try to hold that light of hope and faith through the darkness and carry us into a new year. And so I think in that way it is an excellent time for us to be gathering to share our stories of this past year, and to prepare to travel through that darkest part of the year together and to prepare for another year of doing the good work that we do. So a few people have already confirmed with me that they want to do some storytelling today. I believe we will have some room in the schedule if anybody would like to volunteer to add additional stories. The plan is to go until it'll be about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on how many people want to share stories, and how long the stories and the discussion in between end up being. Again, if you need to leave early, or if you know someone who's coming late, or if you have to like leave and come back, that's fine. I know that being staring at a screen for 2 hours can also be a lot, so I am planning on doing a 5-ish minute break about halfway through. Um, so around, depending on how we're keeping to the schedule, around 11 or maybe shortly before, we'll do a quick break so we can just have a chance to walk away from our screens, maybe get a drink of water, a cup of tea, and then continue on for the second half. So I have, I'm gonna want to start us off with a story sharing with a quick prayer, and then if anybody would like to volunteer to go first with the stories after the prayer, you are welcome to. Otherwise, I have a short story that I can start us off with, but I'm also happy to share that later on this morning if someone else wants to jump in. So I'll start off with our prayer. So I'm Many of the prayers I'm going to be sharing today are from the Laudato Si prayer book, if anyone is familiar. I'm just going to find the right page here. So I want to start off with this prayer for social justice. And with any of the prayers and reflections we're doing, I invite you to participate to the degree that you are able and interested in doing so. If you want to pray along in your own way, you can. If you want to just sit and listen, that's also fine. Here I will actually share. So if you want, you can read along with me. Let's make this just a wee bit bigger. All right. Spirit of truth, who enfolds our world in your love, we come to you with a heavy heart. How does one begin to dismantle the evils of racism, sexism, classism, environmental injustice, and other isms permeating society? Are we complicit with the corporate sin of societal institutions by remaining silent observers? How can we be an instrument of peace and radiate your healing love? People like Desmond Tutu, Martin Luther King Jr., and protesters marching on our streets denounce systemic injustices. We read scriptures injunctions: love God, love my neighbor, pray for my enemies, even those who persecute me? Are we heeding these difficult teachings? Is it enough for us to welcome strangers into our circle of relationships, alleviate the suffering of the Lazaruses on my doorstep, and celebrate the diversity of people and their creeds? Grace us that we have love for all, promote justice for all, and have mutual respect for all creation. Amen.
Amen.
Right. So at this point, I'll send that invitation out. If anybody would like to be the first to share some of the work that we've been doing, you are welcome to step up.
Sure,
Diane?
I'll
All
go.
right.
Sure.
Go for it. So we'll do
Um,
about 10-ish minutes, but it's flexible, and then if people have questions afterwards, you may have a little bit of time for some discussion. So Diane, the floor is
okay.
yours.
Thanks. So I'm coming from or calling from Kamloops and Kamloops United Church, along with George Johnson, who is here with us today as well. I thought I would just present a few of the things we've been doing lately, and then hopefully George can embellish a bit, and Sue as well, on some of this. Sue Gratis from Vernon, some of the other parts that we've been doing. So I'll I'll just start. So over the past few months, we've been busy with several justice projects, including a rally for global climate justice in September, the Jubilee Turn Debt into Hope campaign, a Palestinian land exercise this month, as well as the White Peace Poppies for Remembrance Day. So just to explain a little further, the rally for global justice or global climate justice was in September, and it was well attended by 40 or 50 people with several speakers from around the region. George and his son Ben had written a song entitled Climate Crisis, which we all sang. And he also produced a video of the song and his band, with his band Intensive Care, which you can all see on YouTube. And I encourage you to go and listen to it because it's fabulous. And just to add a little bit, George has won an honorary award for efforts in social filming at the Activists Without Borders Film Festival in the UK for the video. So, George, do you want to talk a little bit more about the rally?
Sure. Yeah. I thought it was quite successful. It was on a very nice September Saturday, and we had about 80 people, which for Kamloops is not bad. And as Diane said, yeah, we sang the song and walked around our Riverside Park. Maybe some of you know that. And then we went over to City Hall and stood on the grass outside City Hall with our placards and so on. It's a high traffic area, so gave a bit more visibility. Um, yeah, and then on the Sunday, the next day, we held a Turn Debt into Hope service at Kamloops United Church. Um, and I was really happy that we did this a skit that I had been involved in. I didn't write it, but I was involved in it in Calgary, and at the
G7.
Yeah, the G7 Jubilee event. And there it was shut down. We were on the street in Calgary, downtown Calgary, and it was shut down by the police actually, and we had to move on. But we finished it off at the City Hall in Calgary. Anyway, so what I did is I simplified that skit, and I'd be very happy to share that skit with everybody. I can send it to Jason or Justin, I should say, sorry, afterwards if you want. And I was happy that we had quite a diverse cast. We had um, Sally from Nigeria, and we had Marion from Turkey participating in it. I think it was well received. I also did another song with a friend of mine called Turn Dead into Hope. And again, if anybody wants the chords and the lyrics for that, it's pretty much directly on Turn Dead into Hope campaign. So it might be useful to you. Um, Yeah, and I yeah, Diane mentioned that I distribute the white poppies. I've actually written about Dick Shepherd, who was the founder of the Peace Poppy movement. It's called the Peace Pledge Union in the UK. It's still going strong. Um, if anybody's interested in those articles on Dick Shepherd, I can also give those links. But I've been doing that for years. I think it's really important to share the white poppies and the story of the white poppies. Most people don't know much about that in Canada. They do in the UK, but not so much here. Um, and yeah, the climate crisis video is actually going around the world. It's been in about, I don't know, 10 film festivals and won a few awards here and there. So that's what I was hoping for, that it would sort of be an anthem for the for climate action. It's a call to action. So yeah, so it's been a busy fall, but it's been rewarding. And we also got many signatures for the petition and sent those off. I got some more to send as well. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks, George. So just to reiterate, the Turn Dead into Hope campaign, we have been promoting the Jubilee petition, and the skit that we performed, I believe, was actually a co-wrote by Shannon, and
I think so,
so
yeah.
it and just to give you a little more information, at the end of the skit in Calgary, they had a big pinata shaped like a pig that they broke open with
Yeah.
candies and things that they shared. We couldn't get a pig for Kamloops United, but we got a treasure chest. So at the end of our skit, we broke open a treasure chest filled with uh, chocolate coins and chocolate kisses, and spread them amongst the congregation. So I think, especially that part of it, the kids could participate and beat on the pinata, and a lot of people really enjoyed that part,
It
and
was really hard to break the pinata, actually.
had to beat on it quite a bit. Yes, it took a little more time in the service than we expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I have to say, you really need to hear George's song "Turn Dead into Hope." It is really great, and it really fits with the whole campaign. So if he's willing to share it, then I would encourage you to get the music and the words from him, and go ahead with that. And again, the white peace poppies for Remembrance Day. For those of you who might not be familiar, we encourage folks to broaden their Remembrance Day focus by wearing them along with the red poppies, not instead of the red poppies. While the red poppies ensure that the sacrifices of veterans are never forgotten, the White Poppy campaign is a peace initiative that symbolizes the remembrance of all victims of war, not just the soldiers, but also civilians who have died in past and present conflicts.
Mhm.
And the other thing that we've done most recently is the Palestinian land exercise. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but it is was something new to me in the summer. Um, it's a participatory exercise co-created by Kathy Bergen of the Mennonite Central Committee, and it traces the history of the Palestinian-Israeli relations using the format of the KAIROS blanket exercise. In the exercise, participants take on the role of Palestinians and actively experience some of the major events that have happened since the end of the 19th century in Palestine and Israel. The exercise is followed by a sharing circle where all are invited to respond and reflect on what they have learned. The event concludes with a discussion of steps you might take to promote an end to the occupation and to work for justice for all citizens and Palestine and Israel. I attended the PLE, the Palestinian Land Exercise, in August in Vernon, and it was hosted by Trinity United Church and sponsored by Kairos Vernon and Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East. And it was especially interesting because Sue Gradis's husband, who is Palestinian, was there along with a Jewish fellow and also a representative from the local MLA's office. And so it was great to hear all the different perspectives on the conflict and the history that's gone on. And I was so moved by the exercise that I worked to bring it to Kamloops. And so then on Sunday, November the 9th, we held the Palestinian land exercise for members of our congregation and the wider community to increase the understanding of the history and current situation in Israel and Palestine. The exercise was expertly facilitated by Reverend Juanita Austin and Debbie Hubbard, who belong to Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East. And as a little bonus, they also brought several Palestinian-made items for sale, including olive oil, as well as Peace by Chocolate, which is made by a Syrian family in Nova Scotia that some of you may be familiar with. We had about 20 folks attend the PLE, and most found it very impactful and were especially moved by it. And I would certainly encourage you to consider sponsoring this exercise in your areas. We do hope to hold it in the future at KUC. And Sue, if you want to add some stuff to this, Sue's much more familiar with it. She's held it and attended it a few more times than I, and she can maybe give you some more perspective on it. Gonna unmute Sue.
Got it. I gotcha. Okay. Hello, everybody. And here from the Okanagan. We have been around the Indigenous blanket exercise, and as a teacher, we were trained in that in various summer workshops in Kamloops. And so we realized that as an educational tool, something that was experiential learning went beyond the brain and into the heart, because you actually walk through the process of being dispossessed and displaced as somebody who would stand on a disappearing map. So the floor is laid out in a circle, and there's a maximum number of participants, which usually is around 25, and 2 facilitators. And those people start with a script, and you're handed a key as one of the people who have tenure on the map. And then you sit down when you're tapped on the shoulder and told that you've either been displaced as a political refugee somewhere, or you have been put into a refugee camp in a border, and you also could die. So when you got the tap on the shoulder and you are dead, it gave some people a traumatic response. And so when people were invited to participate at the beginning, all 24 of ours in November put forward, yes, I will participate. And one person who was sitting right beside me, she decided that she wouldn't participate. She wanted to observe. And so this was the first time that I have been in the circle with somebody who's at that stage of questioning the narrative of the disappearing map of Palestine. And so it was during the hour and a half narrative of where the map shrinks right down to its present representation of how much land is being independently governed by people of Palestine. The main group at the end, which debriefs, puts into the circle their impressions of their experience. And so this lady beside me said, I can't believe it's true. And that was the one thing that she said inside the circle. Following the circle, she did speak to my husband, that she really questions the facts. And so we have come to what's called a tipping point in this narrative. And this is where her reflections from her whole circle outside of the field of um, questioning can come and say, tell me more. And so this was a big part of that experience for many of us, that we can present it as a map, we can experience it as displacement and ethnic cleansing, we can look at it as how we can build capacity and build community response. But we have a lot of work to do. And that's what we came away with in that context. The other comments were as usual, very varied. Tears and hugs and tell me more, and contributions from people who have been there and seen with their own eyes. But this one was a big educational piece for myself. So thank you.
Thanks, Sue. So, in addition to those, of course, we Kamloops United have ongoing honoring of Indigenous injustice and the Orange Shirt Day and Indigenous Indigenous National Indigenous Peoples Day, as well as Kamloops United is an affirming congregation, and so we always honor the fact that we invite all people to be members of the church, and we always honor the Trans Day of Remembrance and other important days along with that. So we try to keep busy and bring awareness to folks. And again, I would definitely invite you all to watch George's video on the climate crisis song, and get the lyrics to Turn Dead into Hope, as well as look into offering the Palestinian land exercise or attending one somewhere yourself if you can. So thanks, Justin.
Much, Diane, George, and Sue. That was a wonderful sharing of all the things that you've been working on. It definitely fills my heart a little bit here. I'm seeing that Shannon's asking a question about taking a picture while we're all still here, because some people are going to have to leave a little bit early. Um, is anyone not okay with being in a group photo?
Right. So then if you need to fix your hair or anything, I'm just going to, not that you needed to, but of course. Um, so I've done one and I'm just going to take one more. Sorry for the interruption, but I'm not as smooth as my colleagues and I didn't quite get it. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Um, okay. Once again, thank you so much for sharing all those stories. I know a couple of things I wanted to just quickly mention and related to that. First of all, I think it's super interesting hearing about the Palestinian land exercise. I know something a friend of mine that does a lot of work on Palestinian solidarity around here, Maxine, has been asking me for our region to sign on to the apartheid-free community pledge. And I know we've been talking about that a little bit. And one of the things that we've been talking about, and sort of the reason we haven't just immediately signed on, is there is sort of an action piece. It's not meant to be something that you just, okay, yeah, we signed on to this and then moving on. There is a part where it's like, how are you as a community actually sort of living this out? And I know we talked a little bit about the land exercise maybe being what that action piece could be for our community. And it's really interesting hearing more about it. And I'm hoping this is not something, we're not doing a planning meeting today, so that's something we can talk about more another time. But um, I'm hopeful that we can maybe move forward on that, and I can let her know that our network is working on it. The other thing is, so before we move on to another story, I want to share either sort of another reflection or perhaps a song. And I know that George was talking about this song. And is there like a recording or a YouTube video that we'd be able to share in this meeting?
Oh, sure.
If
Do
you're
you
able
want
to send
me-
me the link, we can maybe maybe before our break, I can put it on as our last thing before we take our break.
Definitely, yeah, I'll grab the link. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so before I sort of open up the invitation for our next person, does anyone else have any sort of comments or questions about all the wonderful work that Diane, George, and Sue have been doing? All right, well, in that case,
I'll just say that I really appreciate hearing about the land exercise because we've considered it here and done quite a bit of work preparing for it, but haven't actually done it. And so I think we're at a new place where we might sort of launch something into, in the new year. And so it's great to hear your experience about it, both Sue and Diane speaking about it.
all right, so I think I'll do another quick prayer reflection here, and then we'll go into our next story. So I will share my screen again in case people would like to read along.
Looks like Diane wanted to say
Yeah,
something too.
Oh, go for it.
other Diane.
Sorry, it was just a question whether there will be notes coming from this as well, because then that could be captured. The link or whatever could be just captured, but I'm not sure you're doing that or just the recording. Oh, there,
Um,
there it is now.
the link is there if you'd like it. I think so. We aren't, again. It's not sort of meant to be a planning meeting, so I don't think we're taking diligent notes here, but it is recorded. And I think for the resources that we're using here, I think we can probably put together and share out. So links to things like George's song, and I can also find a link for the prayer book that I'm sharing the prayers out of, and we can try to send that out afterwards, so we can collect some of the things that we're sharing and make sure that people have an opportunity to find them again.
Right. And Diane Eamon, I don't know if you were preparing to share anything, but I might share on your behalf if you weren't going to. You weren't planning to. I just, while we're sitting in circle, thought I would mention to everyone that Diane has been quite busy with the Jubilee campaign, and she lets me know what she's doing and and we've received some pictures from their efforts, and so those are always very welcome. And so big thanks to Whitehorse United Church for sending folks to the People's Forum and um, for your follow-up work with the Jubilee campaign and all your work, Diane.
Always good to hear more about that, and also to see people who are modeling a more consistent sharing of information. I know it's something that I need to work on a little bit. So thank you to those who are so involved in our community and who are sharing out both within sort of your local area and with our national office so that we can all stay connected. That's really fantastic. So it's good to hear about that, Diane.
Yeah, I know. I always forget to take pictures, and I think afterwards I should have taken a picture.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I
All
could
right.
just briefly say that we have been in touch with the people who have scripted the land exercise, and the presenter here in Vernon, both times that it's been placed at the Trinity, has also noticed that there are some, as you can understand, that things change, and that what was a small dot on the map is even smaller today. And so those kind of edits to the Palestinian land exercise, just as with the Indigenous blanket exercise are continually being upgraded and updated. And so if you do host one, it's really important to have that in mind, that it's a snapshot and that it is an organic piece. And it's very interesting to take note and to listen and to write down things to tweak it a little because it's an ongoing resource. So thank you.
Yeah, when we started our work on that script, we had to do that too. We just noticed we had to bring it up into where the genocide and all of that was happening, and so we did do some updating of it. But it was interesting because we were working with some Palestinian members in our community, and there was some concerns about the script. So over that kind of tension, we kind of had to let it go for a while. But maybe listening to you now share your story, we may be, and linking it with the apartheid-free community idea, making it a sort of a part of that sort of living out what that really means. That I think that's an excellent suggestion. So thank you for sharing like that.
And to have some people at the back as resource people um,
Right,
at the back of the circle to make sure that everybody's heard is really important. Thank you.
right.
All right, thank you. Thank you for those reminders and suggestions. All right, so I'm going to move us into another short prayer, and then we'll go into another sharing um, moment here. So I'll put it up on the screen again in case you would like to read along with me. Again, this is from the Laudato Si prayer book. This felt like another appropriate one to go to given our discussion. So this is prayer for fundamental human rights. God of justice, we pray for the courage and determination to defend fundamental human rights. We ask for the courage to actively combat poverty, inequality, lack of work, land and housing, and the denial of social and labor rights. We pray for equality, that there would not be first, second, or third class people, much less the so-called disposable. We also pray for those who defend human rights, for those who risk their lives while fighting for fundamental rights under dictatorships, authoritarian regimes, and even in democracies in crisis, that they may see their sacrifice and their work bear abundant fruit. Amen. All right. So yes, Dad.
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry about that last bit. I clicked on that link and then I ended up with all these ads coming up
Oh,
and disturbing your peaceful presentation. I have to leave very soon, so I'll just if it's okay, I'll just share a very short snapshot of what we've
absolutely.
been doing in Whitehorse. Is that
Yes,
okay?
please, please do, please do.
Yeah. Well, the latest thing that's been very inspiring for our church is working on this Jubilee campaign started by KAIROS. So the Turn Debt into Hope. And we've had two young women from our congregation that at Whitehorse United that have been instrumental in moving the campaign along. And they started with us in the spring and they gave a little presentation in church, for 5 minutes or so in the spring. And then we were able to get funding for them to go to Calgary and they participated in the wonderful event that you guys put on and bring it back home in the fall and did another presentation in October in the church. And we had a beautiful horn that one person in our congregation plays. It's I think it's called a lure. And then they gave a presentation on the campaign and we collected more signatures then. And then more recently they took it to a global fair, a global village fair that is happens every fall. And we were able to collect more signatures. So it's just been evolving, and we're hoping to do a film night in this after Christmas, where we have this film sort of group that we have done in the past. So we have a light meal and a film and then some discussions. So we're hoping to show the film Turn, no, it's called the Death Bomb, and there's two parts to it. And it seems to really connect well to the themes in the Turn Debt into Hope. So we're hoping to do that after Christmas, and we've done a few others. And fortunately, like Shannon's put together a blog that's going to just share about that next week that you'll see. We've also just had an elders luncheon for the First Nations in our community, which we did last year too. It was on Friday, on the 24th of October. And last year we did it in November. And that was, we had about, last year we had about 40 elders out, and this year we had about 50 and 30 to 40 people from our congregation. And just, it was really pleasant. Last year we had some storytellers giving some stories after lunch, and this time we did bingo, fun bingo, and door prizes instead. And it was kind of great as well, even better because more chance for people to kind of interact and laugh and have a good time. So we've been trying to build some more connections in with our two local First Nations. And in the Yukon, many of our claims have been settled, and especially in the Whitehorse area. So it's a little different than BC with regards to that. We also participated in the spring in it was a community-wide fair for climate change, and and so we had a booth at the fair in April and then in the fall we've had a territorial election. So we have been working together with some other groups, particularly the Council of Canadians, to ask the politicians about how they felt they were going to address climate change, and it was done through the Council of Canadians websites, asking those candidates, well, a chance for everybody to ask those questions about climate justice and climate change to those candidates directly. So that yeah, we've done a few other things, but I think those are kind of the highlights. We have some refugee families that we have been working towards. We have two families that are here from Eritrea and have been settled very well in the community, and we've working towards getting some other family members moved over as well. So that's mainly it. And I apologize for having to leave late. Unfortunately, I forgot about the time change. And so I thought this started an hour earlier, and that I would be able to take more of it in. But I will look at the recording, and it's very interesting to hear about the Palestinian
Land exercise.
The land exercise. Yeah. So I would like to find out more about that as well, and who are the leaders for that. So if anybody has information on how to do that in our own community, that would be great. So thank you, and nice to see everybody. Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Diane.
All right, so just looking at where we're at here. Yes, Norma?
I don't mind going next if she's finished.
Right. I think, yeah, let's do one more story. And then we'll maybe I think that would be a good point after that to share a song and then take a quick break. So yeah, if you're ready, Norma, you had a couple pictures you wanted me to share on the screen. Is that correct?
Yes, if you want to show the first one of the banner,
Yeah, let
the
me just
banner, um, the Palestinian banner.
let me just make sure I got the right one. All right.
It's
Oh,
nice to see everybody from seeing you at Sorrento last year, and nice to see you again, Susan. Um, Last year at Sorrento, I spoke about the peace train, and 40 of us did get to Ottawa and talked with, there were 8 different MPs that came out. And, we put forth our request and our petition to bring back a peace center. So that's ongoing. And this peace train group, as well as Kairos, decided to have a vigil outside of MP Gorjon's office. And it was called Bread Not Bombs. And I wanted to have an interactive activity that we could all participate in. So I painted the map of Palestine. And then I have these little peace signs. And at first I thought of gluing them on to the canvas, but then I thought that would make it hard to roll up. So I gave everybody a wooden peace sign, and they traced it onto the banner. And in one section they wrote their name, and then in other sections they put down what they hoped for the Palestinian people or the area in general. So then when the peace train people went to Ottawa this fall to attend peace conferences put on by Pugwash and Project Plowshares, uh, John Maba from Port Alberni and from the peace train took this banner, and it was shown. And here you can see it hanging from a pulpit in front of a final concert. One of the messages that I really liked was "Make the Holy Land whole again." So um, it's kind of a fun visual that people can try. Anyway, this year I had the choice of going with the peace train or working with Kairos on a World Craft Bazaar. One of my the treasurer said to me, asked me if I had one more bazaar in me. So I thought, yes, let's go for it. I just needed to hear one more person wanting to help. So I started back in January to contact. We hadn't done a bazaar. We had done 22 bazaars in the past, but we hadn't done one since the beginning of COVID. Thanks, Jason. You could change this one out to the other one of the bazaar. So I had to go, start fresh. Contacted what's his name up in Dave Talbot up in Comox, and he gave me quite a few names of um, non-government nonprofit organizations. So I contacted about 60 or 70 of these groups, and I ended up getting a response of about 17 who wanted to come. And so I signed a contract with my church, Knox United, and it was called A Worthy Cause, for which Kairos had to pay $500 to to rent the tables. And so they wanted 60 tables. And I tried to collect money from them in August, and about maybe 4/5 of them responded then. And I drew up a floor plan where the vendors would go, and we had about 800 people come. Getting the food was quite a challenge. I had the Ukrainian people coming first, and then they decided they noticed that they had a big service on October 18th, our day for the bazaar. So they pulled out, and First Nations people had done the lunch in the past, but they felt that they were getting on, and they said they just wanted to come and shop. So that's fine. And then some Syrian people who were really good cooks were moving into a new house that day. So I was really getting desperate, but then Knox's Social Justice Committee stepped forward, and this was good because it was another way for our church to make some money. So it was a lot of fun. 8 of us got together in the kitchen and made chili the day before, but one person had food safe. So she got the permit to do it in our kitchen. And they came in and inspected us right away because we said we were making meat chili. And so then after the inspection, we decided we didn't want to take any chances, and we cut back to a vegetarian chili, which was actually really good. So we made $400 there for the church, which they appreciated. And the vendors came, and then we couldn't get in the night before, which most of the vendors wanted, but I was able to organize a crew of volunteers from our church that there had to be close to 20 volunteers. Some came at 7 in the morning, including our own minister, which I really appreciated. And we helped get them in, we helped them pack out, and we also went round with free coffee during the day, and or let them go and have some lunch, which they appreciated. So they felt welcomed. I wrote a prayer, which I read in church, and I sent it out to all the vendors. I really feel that these vendors are some of the heroes amongst us. One person that I talked to quite a bit was a fellow who he and his wife go to Nepal, and he was able to sell $1,500 worth of goods from Nepal, weavings, blankets and shawls, etc. And he sent back 1,000 for health and 500 for education to Nepal. And the health part, they work with the Rotary and Nepalese doctors, and they do up to 1,000 cataract operations up in the hills with the people, the poor people. I wouldn't even want to go up on those roads, um, anyway, these people, of course, are very grateful. And I learned about one girl who was getting education. She was born into the lowest caste in Nepal. Her father worked hard but could never own land because he was in this caste. But she got through school, and when she wrote the final exams, and marks were compared between the public and the private, they were the same exams, she actually had the highest mark. And so the innovative communities of Nepal have taken her on and are putting her through university, and she's going through dentistry. So this is just a miraculous story for this young woman. And the fellow from Vietnam, he sold $2,500 worth of cards in 6 hours.
Wow.
And they support 38 university students in Vietnam. So I really urge people to return to having these bazaars because using your ethical power for purchasing is wonderful. And the young woman that you see on the picture here, she does shea butter products from Ghana. The really amazing thing is that I billeted with Gifty's mother in Ottawa, at the Peace Train Conference. And then she told me that she had a daughter in Duncan who did this. And so then I contacted Gifty, and she was one of the vendors at our fair. So it's such a small world, and the connections are so wonderful. Does anyone have any questions about either of those events? The World Craft Bazaar or the vigil?
With the World Craft Bazaar, where are the vendors located? Like,
Uh, the church was cleared out because we don't have pews, we just have chairs. And so uh, it was in the sanctuary and in the lounge of our
oh
church.
yeah. No, what I meant was like, um, where do they operate from? I was just wondering if they were close enough to Kamloops we could try and have something
Ah,
in Kamloops.
ah, okay. Let's see. Well, certainly several people did come from Vancouver.
Okay. But they were willing to come up all the way from Vancouver, yeah.
They had to take a ferry over. I know one lady from Salt Spring, Caroline Hopkinson with El Mundo. She stayed at a hotel. Manzoor from Vancouver, he's with Cashmere Products. He asked for a billet, which we were able to find.
Mm.
So, so that was good.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could get a list of them maybe so we could try and do it in Kamloops.
Sure.
I was going to say, yeah, if Norma, if you can share, either if you can email me or Shannon, like we can try to put that together maybe with the resources that we send out afterwards. So it sounds
That'd
like
be
it was
really
a
cool.
great event, and it'd be good to connect people if they want to do similar ones.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And
That's wonderful.
and
Thanks.
and and also, I just wanted to say that it was, I feel that's a very timely reminder about sort of if you're going to be doing purchasing, using that as a power to do good, as we are kind of in the Black Friday, Cyber Monday
Yes.
sort of pinnacle of capitalism weekend. So thank you for the reminder on if you are going to be purchasing, think about how and where.
Right. Thank you.
There is George Richmond Kairos, right, who does an annual fair trade, global trade kind of thing every year. So they're another resource that I'm sure Justin could connect you with.
Oh, okay, good. We used to do the 10,000 villages at KUC, but I don't know what happened to that. It hasn't been going for quite a few years now.
In Abbotsford, there is a Mennonite group with a store. I think it's called 10,000 Villages.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know they have a few stores now, but yeah, not the bazaar that we used to have.
Right. Yeah, Duncan has pulled back. They didn't have a bazaar this year. Um, Dave had one in Courtney 2 weekends ago, and there's one, I think, this weekend in Campbell River.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Plus,
We have during the summer
Hmm,
some outdoor things like that.
great.
And Emrys, who you met
Yes.
before, has her part of our tables in there with the LGBTQ community. So it's a way of bringing people together. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yes. She was the inspiration when she did the dream catchers for me to order these peace signs that have been so handy with the Sunday school, with the vigil, being on the peace train as a craft with people on the train, and so her
yeah,
ideas have gone far afield.
yeah, Emrys definitely was quite the inspiration. They did really good work last year. It was really nice to have them with us.
Mhm.
I think just looking at our time here, I think we're probably at a good moment to take a little break, just so that if people need to, you can step away from your screen for a few minutes. If people do have more questions for Norma after, we have time for a little more discussion. I think I'm going to skip a song for now, but when we come back, I think I will share a song to start off with. So it is just after 11 right now. So let's try to be back in the call for about 11:06 or sort of equivalent to your time for those who are in a different time zone. So just as we're heading into our second half here, just want to give a reminder. We want to focus a little on more on the sort of story sharing of experiences. I know that when we hear really cool ideas, we want to kind of ask about all the logistics and like figure out how people managed to make things work on their end, and that's really lovely. I think if you have more questions about like specific contacts or specific like how did you make this part of this event or this activity work, I think those are things that we can, if you could email us afterwards, and we can kind of help connect people, or if you already have specific people's contact, we can do that. If a couple questions are fine, but I know that sometimes we can lose our pace a little bit if we're into the stories, and then it kind of starts moving into more of a discussion of logistics. That said, it's always really nice to see people taking so much interest in what other people do. I think that's one of the strengths of our network, is that we have so many individual communities that are really strong and working on their own individual projects, and then it's really nice to share and get some of those ideas and share some of those resources. So my hope is that we can continue sharing our stories together in this gathering. And then if something does pique your interest, then it can be a continued conversation sort of at the end of the meeting or into sort of other discussions afterwards to make those connections on specific details. So in any case, so I think to start us off here, before we get into more stories, I do want to share a song, and George did share the link. So I'm going to hold on a second. Just give me a minute to get this properly shared. Make sure that I'm sharing my audio. And I just want to make sure looks like the right link I've got up here, George. The climate crisis official music video with intensive care.
That's it. Yep.
All right. And I know sometimes with Zoom, music can always be a bit of a challenge. So if we notice any echoing coming through, I may ask you to mute if you aren't already. But hopefully we can have the music come through here. If you cannot hear anything when I start the video, please let me know.
We've got a climate crisis, don't bloody well ignore. We either fight it now or it costs a whole lot more. We've got a climate crisis, don't say it's good for us. Droughts and floods and fires, stop asking what's the fuss. To do or not to do, to do or not to do. Here's what I say to you, let's get off our ass and take a crack at changing our world for the better. We've got a climate crisis, don't deny that we're to blame. The science isn't lying, it's not an opinion game. We've got a climate crisis, don't say they must change first. We're on this earth together, we'll all suffer thirst. We've got a climate crisis, don't deny it's happening now. Bees and plants are dying, got to change, but how? To do or not to do, to do or not to do. Here's what we say to you, let's get
All right, that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us, George.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to say it was definitely a group effort, and that's my son who's planting the tree there. I'm really proud of him. He's 16 when we wrote that song. So yeah. Oh, and also it's on all the platforms like iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff under intensive care, along with another song called Salmon Run, which is about the threats to the salmon habitat here in BC. So
It's a great example of sort of a creative way of getting the message out there, right? Like there's many ways to do this work, and there's definitely room for us artists to contribute the creative aspect. So
yeah, I try and move people through their hearts and, with any kind of art, really.
all right. So I think with that, let's move into the next story. I think Susan and Janet, you're up next if you're ready.
I'll just share my screen. If I can find it. There we go. And just a minute. Gonna move this. Okay, does everybody see that? Good. Okay. You're going to see, it starts kind of dark and gloomy, this story, but it gets better, I assure you. Written after World War I, the war to end all wars, this poem still speaks to many over 100 years later. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. As I watch the news or read the latest Substack written by people who know so much more than I do about world affairs, it really does seem like things are falling apart, that the old story that used to help me make sense of the world no longer provides me with the context in which my life can function in a meaningful way. Vanessa Machado's groundbreaking book, Hospicing Modernity, helped Janet and myself examine that old story with new eyes. And out of that learning and our own wisdom gleaned from decades of grassroots activism, we've got a story to share with you today. Of course, most of us are not living in an apocalyptic setting like this one, but I'm sure that any of us who've experienced the forest fires, heat domes, atmospheric rivers, or any other extreme weather events are already sensing that things are shifting in terms of our climate. And if we have friends and family members living in America, the rise of fascism and the division in that society are causing tensions here, especially since the pandemic. Now, I don't know about you, but I've watched or read most of these, and more, it seems like science fiction is becoming science fact. When I feel like this, I take a deep breath and I go outside. Janet and I live in Victoria and are blessed by these sparkling waters, the ocean air, beautiful gardens. And probably most of you also have special places where you go to remind yourself that Earth is still offering us so much in spite of our separation from her. So let us go deeper into this story now. Now, you may know this quote: to allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone in everything, is itself to succumb to the violence of our times. With the polycrisis we are living in, if you are a compassionate human being who believes in justice, it's very easy to feel like you are being called to do more and more and more. And then you may feel overwhelmed, which creates anxiety and stress. And so you escape to your favorite streaming platform to make it all go away. This is what modernity is doing to us. There has to be another way. Introducing the spiral journey. If you know Joanna Macy's work, you will already be familiar with this process. Janet and I have found this tool critical to how we stay engaged in this work of transforming the world when everything around us is collapsing. What follows for the rest of our story are photos of actions and events we've been part of over the last year. Let's go for a spiral journey together and find out how we created community For when things are falling apart, that's when relationships matter the most. Begin with gratitude. Creating more space for gratitude in my life is essential. Knowing that this old growth tree is still standing tall on Vancouver Island fills my heart and grounds the work I am doing. The beauty and the wonder of life on this planet needs to be lifted up regularly. After Trump's election last fall and out of the ensuing chaos that arose, the Canada Strong movement was born. And while there are many aspects of life in Canada that are not just and need addressing, Canada is not the divided states of America, and I am very grateful for this. Seeing a large flag like this on the legislative buildings, this is such an un-Canadian thing for us to do. But you know, in a time of collapse, I am glad a conversation has started about what it means to be a Canadian. Janet and I are also grateful that we have friends and family supporting us in our activism. There you see Janet's mother, Claire, sitting in the chair there, surrounded by some of her fans, and she has legions of them. And then in the upper corner there is myself and my little 4-year-old granddaughter, Sophia, who really loves the monkeys on that rally sign. And below is Janet with a couple of members of our KAIROS group celebrating with a piece of cake. Making time for celebration is so important in a way to create community. Look at that sea of orange shirts on September 30th. Doesn't that photo make you grateful for the journey we are making together towards reconciliation? This has taken years, and we've still got a long way to go. But here in Victoria, most of us realize that we have much to learn from Indigenous peoples about creating right relationship with one another as well as with our beautiful earth. Now, after the gratitude practice, then I am ready to face the grief and suffering that most people are carrying, even if they refuse to look at it. In Victoria, there is a weekly rally for Palestine on Saturday afternoon. Participants bring their issues, feelings, and creativity to this rally, and it has become a safe place for people to support one another and feel like they are not alone. Yes, even Christian Zionists are part of this, although they are kept separate and the Palestinian supporters have learned not to engage. Does this not look like a community? Over the last couple of years, it really has become one, as we've learned to trust one another and work with one another together on this rally. Here is a KAIROS member who cares deeply about the children of Gaza, and she uses the rally to express her longing for a world where the rights of children are respected. There are also members of Independent Jewish Voices who stand peacefully with us, longing for bridges to be built instead of walls. Over the past year, we've pulled together with others to host special educational events like this film festival. Learning about the NAPCA and the ongoing genocide is challenging work, but we know we have to lift up the mistakes and horrors of the past before we can imagine the future. Dr. Deirdre Noonan, who's at the microphone there in that picture, has come to Victoria a number of times this past year, and her work as a doctor in Gaza opened our eyes, hearts, and minds to the reality of the genocide. And that's, if you haven't had a chance to hear her speak, I really encourage you to get in connection with us, get in contact with her. She speaks so passionately, and she's a really excellent communicator. When we face the horrors together, we find ways to cope and act. Now, I probably should have started with this issue to begin with, climate catastrophe, because no one in BC or Canada does not have some grief or anxiety about the climate chaos we are seeing on our screens almost every day. Our elected leaders say they get it. They are no longer denying its existence, but they are acting like they have another 50 years to fix it. Just look at what happened this past week with the signing of the MOU. In September, the activist community in Victoria and elsewhere around the world came together for the Draw the Line March. None of the other issues we're working about will matter much if Earth decides humans have to go. And this is why we did come together, because we want to lift up our grief and encourage people to act now for people, peace, and planet. It was a very diverse group that came together. We had seniors, we had families, all the different issues, migrant justice, homes for all. Here's some more pictures from that. And look, it's the Red Rebel Brigade. See the people in red there? Janet is a member of this group. And I'm now going to turn the story over to her so she can explain who they are and then take us through the last two parts of the spiral. Janet?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Susan and I both love the act of combining and weaving art and cultural things into all that we do to sustain the work. And the Red Rebel Brigade is something that came out of England. You can find out a lot more about it by looking up Red Rebel Brigade. And we formed a group of about 13 of us in the summer, and we've got more coming on each time. Each time we show up somewhere, somebody else wants to join. And we created these fantastic costumes, and our faces are painted white. And the idea of the red is that it is unifying the blood of many creatures. Not all creatures have red blood, but unification and unity from the blood that we carry in our veins. But also it's a stop. Red is stop fossil fuels and our dependence on it. It's also about love. And I would say that's the one that speaks to me the most. It's also about passion, our passion for igniting our efforts. And we don't speak. So we walk and we use gestures in unison or unfolding one after another. And we've shown up at a number of different events now. And it's been very moving to hear how to be part of it. It feels to me like it's a meditation, walking silently through our city. Whereas I used to I have many times carried placards or been chanting about something. And it's been really lovely doing it with others. So we've gotten huge reaction from people. So that's one thing. But having fun and finding new ways to express our grief and honor the pain that we carry has been very important to both of us. So now the next part of the spiral looks with new and ancient eyes for connections that inspire. And in this picture, you see a salmon, and you also see the sign that says Save Goldstream. And Carl Olson is the elder in the front there with his hat on. And Carl has been for the past some years now standing at Goldstream Park along the highway that many of you have traveled on the Island Highway. And he's from the Wisanich territories. And he is an elder that has been faithfully standing there trying to let others know in both his own territory, in his own nation, but also non-Indigenous people, that the work that the province has proposed to change the highway would involve damaging and taking away very sacred salmon territory from the salmon that go up and down Goldstream River. And so he has really been in his own quiet way, really building community, and many churches and people of KAIROS have supported his efforts and often stand with him when they can. James Bay United is one of those first church communities that really made it a core part of their reconciliation story and work that they're doing. So having those relationships together where we listen to and honor other people's stories that might not be our own, we've learned new ways to form allyship and stand with others. here's another story of standing with others, and many Kairos people across the country have supported this effort that we have had on Vancouver Island and BC to stand with the old growth forests, which we have less than 3% of standing. And over again, we hear from COP meetings and others around the world that, of course, we have to save our old growth. Well, here in BC, we're busy allowing all kinds of loopholes, and there's much more you can find out about that if you want, but cutting down the trees. And right now there's a stand in the Walburn Valley that we thought maybe was protected at one point after decades of work to defend those old growth trees. But in fact, it's being attacked right now. There's been a group of young people that have been up tree sitting, and there's still today, I believe, a couple in some tree sits. But the RCMP started to come into the camp that young people have been at for the past months now in the Walbren. And this was last week, I believe. We did a rally in front of the forestry offices here in Victoria, and the Red Rebels showed up, as well as many others at midday. And there is a beautiful etching of a rub of 1,000+ year old growth tree that Will, a young fellow who you saw in a previous slide, who's been very active in this whole thing. But again, this has been about allyship and honoring the words of many. I think in the next slide there might be no. I guess we've already seen Bill Jones, who is an elder from the Pacheedaht people. There he is with his fist up in that bottom corner picture. And that's been a very interesting journey for Bill. Bill is 85 years old, and he's of the Pacheedaht Nation, where these trees are on their land. And he has been not only trying to stand with the old growth trees, he's been fighting his own nation, who are one of the nations that have a mill that is set up for old growth cutting and milling, and he's sort of found a lot of allyship and camaraderie and growth, being with and mutual learning with all the young people and others around him. And he is a force to be reckoned with. He is passionate and just sharing wonderful things with many people and about his own territory. Let's see what the next story is here. So going forward with our new eyes, we are all about wanting to deepen our relationships in any way we can and take action, but not to the expense of your soul and your physical ability. We need to look after each other and ourselves as we do this. One of the things that we've done is Susan and I had seen pictures, maybe some of you had, of Charlie Angus's, right? Charlie Angus had posted in the spring and summer of, I believe it was his mother standing or sitting on the side of the highway with a sign that said, Grandmothers Against Genocide. And I just thought, yes, this is a great idea. And my pals, Susan and a few others here in Victoria, said yes. So we thought, well, even if there's just the four of us, we'll go out and do this. And I made up 20 signs that say Grandmothers Against Genocide. And we have a couple others that say kick at the darkness and everyone can do something. And we've been now standing every 2 weeks at noon for an hour and a half or an hour and a quarter. And we just did it yesterday. And it's been rainy a little bit, but not too bad. And people love this action who have been involved. And there are many people that aren't necessarily involved in other kinds of rallies or things that we've done. So, and we stand at a juncture of the highway where we see a lot of traffic, and we get a lot of honks of support and waves. We also get some angry honks and some shouts from people, but we just stand there and we'll continue to do this. Looking at new ways to sort of connect with people, we decided to hold a Tatrice embroidery workshop. And here's just a little example of a Tatrice item. It's cross stitch. You can't see it probably so well, but I have enjoyed learning how to do this kind of cross stitch, and not everybody's into this kind of handiwork, but the four of us decided to host an event. We learned from the work of Sue Gaddis and others in Vernon, who held a very successful showing of the film Stitching Palestine, and a year ago, and had an event where they had many women from the mosque and community at their event. And we likewise invited many of the people we've met from the rallies and the other and the mosque, and we had a wonderful combination of learning about Tatrice and the resistance of Palestinian women, and learning how to do cross stitch ourselves, and eating yummy foods. And we had 70 people there, and a lot of them were young people, and not all women. There were some men too, and people just loved it. So now we're going to have an ongoing thing, maybe monthly, as sort of a bit of a Tatrice sitting, talking, learning kind of venture. And the next one will be in January at the mosque, and then we'll come back to our church, and we'll sort of alternate that way. Another item that we have held each year is trying to honor the World Oceans Day is this particular event, and around that we had set up at a market, and we set up in the inner harbor, and also we did a bridge hang, a banner hang, where we're trying to raise up the idea that there has been a moratorium on the development and mining work in the oceans, the deep sea oceans. And decisions are very fragile around that. And it's a Canadian mining company, that Green Metals Company, Green Metals Company, get that name there. And we all need to be very attentive to these things. But again, we can't hold all of these issues. So we pick and choose what we can, what speaks to our passions. Here's some of the one of the events. Again, we of course held up the Turn Debt into Hope campaign, and this is just one of our displays at our the church, that Broadway United, where Susan and I attend. And we got signatures and tried to encourage people to find out more about that. And so that's sort of one way of working, with petitions and letter writing and learning that way. And then on the right is an example of the young people, and Elder Bill Jones out there in front. And that's an enormous, I don't know if you can tell what it is, but it's an enormous cougar that Will created in his backyard with pieces of driftwood, all screwed together. It's huge, and it was just, if you look online at the Fairy Creek Brigade Instagram, you might see a picture of the RCMP picking it up with a crane as things are burning in the background, as they disassemble the camp. It was at Cougar Camp. But those are a different way of working, and we all have to find what speaks to us at this time. We were never designed for empires. We were made for the village, for soil beneath our feet, for eyes that see us, for relationships where we are known, not followed, not marketed to, but truly seen, for circles that remember how to care. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Much for sharing.
I'll just find my...
All right, so Getting towards our end here, I want to make sure that we have enough time for Shannon has some things to share here. So I will, as our little reflection piece in between here, I did want to share a quote from the Serviceberry book by Robin Walker um, just because I think it encapsulates a lot of the stuff we've been talking about really well. Kimmerer writes, in a gift economy, wealth is understood as having enough to share, and the practice for dealing with abundance is to give it away. In fact, status is determined not by how much one accumulates, but by how much one gives away. The currency in a gift economy is relationship, which is expressed as gratitude, as interdependence, and the ongoing cycles of reciprocity. A gift economy nurtures the community bonds that enhance mutual well-being. The economic unit is we rather than I, as all flourishing is mutual. I think that kind of gives us a bit of a vision for the world we're trying to build piece by piece here as we do our work. All right. Well, with that, I think I will turn it over to Shannon. Well, Shannon, I think you had asked if I could share some links while you are speaking. Is that correct?
That's right. I sent you quite a few links, and folks don't feel like you need to catch up with them all, but if you are interested, you can, in a particular piece, you can click on those links, and I will also make sure that you you can have those links in an email afterwards as well. Now, I just need to pull up my slides and I want to share a few things with you. So thanks, Justin and Susan and Janet. I marvel. I wonder how you could have done all of those things in 1 year. But so great to see all of that collaboration and wonderful to see it in pictures. Um, so one second here.
Just while Shannon's sharing, to be clear, we didn't organize all the events. We participated in them. Some of them
Yeah.
were organized.
And that's the strength of our community too, right? Sometimes we are organizing the events, and sometimes we're there as part of the other communities and networks that we're a part of, and we all kind of knit together into one larger whole. I can really quickly share a little bit of what I've been up to in the last year. So I know I have been less active on the regional level since our gathering in Sorrento, and part of that has been sort of the busyness with my day job as a teacher, but I have also been continuing to do some local work, connecting different groups together around the Vancouver area. And one of the big things that I've been working on here is connecting between our local Laudato Si group, which is a Catholic climate action group, as well as Development and Peace. And we've done a little bit of work together on Jubilee year. We did a candlelight vigil and gathering back in May to sort of promote and come together around Jubilee as well as the 10-year anniversary of Laudato Si. It was really great to see so many people from these different groups come together, as well as a few passersby kind of actually stop and take a look at what we were doing as we were sort of singing and praying out on in front of City Hall in Coquitlam. Um, and it's been really great working with the other folks in those groups. We've been working on getting the municipalities in this area to sign on to the Sue Big Oil campaign, which if you're interested, I can include that in the list of resources so you can learn more about that later on. But yeah, there's I think some very fruitful relationship and network building going on in this area, and I'm looking forward to how it goes in the next year. Looks like Shannon's ready, so I'll pass it on.
Thanks, Justin, and I hope that wasn't too distracting, but I thought let's get that all that clicking over with. Um, so folks, I have a few things to share, less of a report and more of an invitation to learn more, to engage. But I do have a few stories as well. And here we are at the end of November, 11 months into the Jubilee year. I hope all of you have already heard about the Turn Debt into Hope campaign, and I am so encouraged that several of you who I hadn't seen pictures from or heard anecdotes from have now shared that this has been a part of your year. So if there's anyone on the call who hasn't heard about it, you can find out more at the main website. And as Justin mentioned, I've asked him to put a few things in the chat. So just so that it'll be right there for you. I wanted to share just one photo from the G7 Jubilee People's Forum. Just over 100 people gathered in Calgary in June to learn more about the Turn Debt into Hope campaign. And so George was there and some other folks as well from BC-Yukon. And we were hoping to send a strong message to the G7 leaders that were meeting nearby. Of course, this number here from the petition signatures is no longer accurate. We celebrated this week that we passed the 50,000 mark. And so in the office, we were quite excited about that. And we'll hope that you and the community can help us make it to 55,000 or maybe 60 or maybe more. If you haven't signed yet, and you all remember that this is the same petition we've been promoting all year, you can sign at the link in the chat. If you haven't yet taken it to your church or to a particular community group, the Animators Toolkit has all the things that you would need to share it. So for most of you, those will be reminders you've heard several times before. I mentioned the folks at Whitehorse United, and I had already put a slide into my deck, so I'll just share it here. This is Stephanie and Maria Alexis, who were at the People's Forum and got themselves into the Yukon news, as well as a number of other initiatives, as Diane talked about. And so you can read about it in the KAIROS Times. And if you don't get the KAIROS Times, Justin's going to share a way that you can subscribe. In 2025, we have focused on how the biblical message of Jubilee encompasses, oops, I wanted to show the next one. There we go. Encompasses all the work of the KAIROS program areas. Jubilee really is a deep and rich concept. And so you can learn more about the links to the 4 main program areas of KAIROS in this resource that was published in October about faith, justice, and right relationship. So what about 2026? The Turn Debt into Hope campaign continues. Caritas Internationalis and a number of global partners will continue this important work. In some places, things are just getting rolling now, and in others, new wins are giving energy to the campaign. It was very exciting to hear that First Minister John Swinney announced to the Scottish Parliament that he and his government support the Turn Debt into Hope campaign. So as far as I know, this is the first parliamentary action that supports this campaign and the cancellation of debts. And so this work continues. KAIROS has committed to the leadership of the Canadian Coalition for the first half of 2026. Those months will focus on ecological justice and advocacy. So this advocacy will be both at a high level with ministers as we are able to get meetings and send letters, but it'll also be with you locally and with your MPs. And so we will be doing some work to resource that in terms of offering some starting points, some information, some pieces you can bring to your MPs, and some connecting points for bringing people together. I also wanted to mention that a high point of the work in that first half of the year will be lobby days and a rally in Ottawa at the end of April. And the petition is going to stay open until that point when we deliver petitions to Parliament in April. So continue your great local work. If you have an idea for another community group you haven't spoken to yet or place you could bring the petition, please do so. Now, I also want to highlight some of the great work my colleagues have been doing this year, and I'm going to start with migrant justice. Leah Schifferah here is the migrant justice lead, and this was taken at the 69th session of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women in New York. And she writes that it was nothing short of transformative. And again, the quote continues, there are many challenges facing women, especially women who are migrants. Yet there is an energetic and powerful community of change makers around the world leading change. So if you want to learn more about Leah's experience on the status of women, she has written a blog that you could check out. One of the aims of the Migrant Justice Program is to center migrant voices through storytelling, education, and experiential learning activities. So here on this slide, I have put 3 examples of that. The first is a migrant worker exercise, which can be booked through KAIROS. The second one is actually at the bottom, which are mini docu-series. 4 interviews have been done, and the first has been published. Dee's Journey, A Promise Betrayed, A Voice for Change. And then the top photo is where KAIROS supported the collaborative network to end exploitation and mixed company theater to partner with a presentation called Harvest Justice, Twice the Speed of Lightning. And that was a really interesting interactive production where it was a theater production, but a forum theater production. And audience members were invited to take the place of actors and to see if you could change the narrative. I wanted to introduce you to a few folks that you might not have met yet. This is Murray Pruden. He is the Director of Indigenous Programs. The rest of staff first met him at a staff and steering committee retreat in the spring. And I found that Murray really grounded us with morning reflections on the land, by the water, by the fire in our 3-day retreat. This is a new position, and so having Murray work with both the blanket exercise team and program coordinator brings a new depth to our Indigenous rights programming. Brandy Bilodeau is the new Indigenous rights program coordinator, and I have some examples of her work to show you. Brandy has been working with the Indigenous Rights Circle, and they met in Toronto in person in November. Brandy also went to COP with some other Indigenous delegates, as well as some partnership and ecological delegates as well. Early in her time at KAIROS, she wrote 13, not 3, 13 teachings during Indigenous History Month. And if you didn't see them at that time this June, they really are timeless, and I'd encourage you to go back to them. So I've shown 3 examples of the teachings that Brandy shared with us during that month. Another Indigenous rights team is the KAIROS blanket exercise team. They have been working hard to really put into place and full operation the Indigenous-led model that has been a reworking of how KAIROS works with blanket exercise facilitators. And so there's now an Indigenous advisory circle specifically for the blanket exercise. There are new facilitator trainings. The first one was in Vancouver. And there is a world blanket exercise, and Alfredo took that to the World Indigenous Peoples Conference on Education in New Zealand this past month. As I mentioned, we had a delegation at COP this year in Brazil, and in particular, we've had a delegation at COP before sometimes. The last one was COP 27. And this year we had one of our staff invited to the Canadian delegation, which allowed her to have access to the negotiators and to some spaces that not everyone would be able to have. So she wasn't on the negotiating team. That would be nice, but was able to listen and get a little bit of an inside picture of that. And you can read more about that on the website as well. So I have one more picture here, and this is Danielle Kamtinono. She is the KAIROS Africa Partnerships and Global Climate Justice Program Coordinator. The news from Danielle this fall is that she was in Uganda in October, and KAIROS was invited to participate in a Theklaha event, and that is the Fellowship of Christian Councils and Churches in the Great Lakes and Horn of Africa. And so she was our representative there, and you can read about her reflections that she's called Church Leaders and Youth at the Crossroads of Holistic Peace, Sustainability, and Social Cohesion. So quite a bit of depth there in her visit and in her storytelling. And now I want to tell you about an exciting new program, the Women Peace Builders at the Nexus of Climate, Conflict, and Gender.
This project comes from the reality that is being lived by so many communities throughout the world, and that is the intersecting and compounding impacts of escalating conflict, climate crisis, and growing inequalities, including gender inequality. Our partners, Women Peace Builders and Land Defenders, are already addressing these issues because they are working with communities that are living these impacts, and we are being called on to accompany them in support and advocacy. We know that Women Peace Builders build more sustainable, more equitable, just, and peaceful communities and societies. We have plenty of evidence of this.
South Sudan currently is going through all the 3 elements: the conflict, the climate change, and the gender issues. So this has come at the right time. Also looking at the part whereby women are the beneficiaries and the implementers of this project is also a very positive part of the project. And it is not just the Women Link who will benefit from the project, but even people from our member churches, our ICCs, and even the population of South Sudan.
Et ce programme, c'est un programme qui vient à peu nommer parce que c'est un programme qui va permettre à la femme qui veut accéder au poste de prise de décision de savoir développer les mécanismes et les stratégies pour atténuer les conséquences des changements climatiques et s'adapter. La lutte contre les violences basées sur le genre puisse permettre à la femme d'être autonome et de participer au développement du pays par des actions de paix initiées par les femmes.
Para nosotras es muy importante tener esta oportunidad de seguir construyendo alianzas con Kairos, con todo el equipo y con la embajada canadiense aquí en nuestro territorio, porque este acompañamiento blinda nuestro proceso y hoy, donde los derechos ambientales se entretejen con la importancia de los derechos humanos y la labor que hacemos las defensoras que construimos paz en los territorios, es muy importante hablar del triple nexo: justicia de género, cambio climático y conflicto armado, para que la paz sea un ejercicio transformador e integral, como siempre lo hemos soñado las mujeres de la Organización Femenina Popular aquí en este territorio.
But what we need and what this project is our chance to go beyond resilience, to build something. We begin on the community level, making sure that we're creating inclusive spaces, equitable spaces, saying what we've known for years, and that is a woman can, just like a man can, and she does and she leads.
وعندنا كمان الصراعات التي تواجه المجتمع كمصادرة الأراضي وقلة المياه وارتفاع درجات الحرارة بسبب تغير المناخ. هاي المشاكل كلها بتواجهها المجتمع ككل والنساء والفتيات بشكل خاص. احنا في مركز وئام بنسعى إلى تمكين المرأة بحقوقها وقدرتها وحقوقها على العمل، حيث أن المرأة هي نصف.
I believe that this project offers a unique opportunity to build meaningful relationships between our global partners and Indigenous communities here on Turtle Island. So, through knowledge exchange and solidarity, we can uplift Indigenous voices, share land-based teachings, and learn from one another's resilience in the face of conflict, climate change, and ongoing colonial impacts. I believe that these exchanges will strengthen our collective work, creating a space for healing, justice, and renewed relationships with the land and with each other.
This work matters deeply here in Canada. We know that the climate crisis is driving conflict across land and water, and that Indigenous women and youth are at the forefront of defending territories and advancing just climate solutions. By learning with our partners in the Global South and with women peace builders, we can strengthen the Canadian climate movement's understanding of the nexus of climate conflict and gender, amplify women's leadership, and deepen solidarity across borders.
By fostering policy and decision-making, KAIROS contributes to empowering women peace builders and their local networks to take action and to take leadership roles on addressing the triple nexus and influencing policies, decision-making, and structures. Finally, through an innovative and integrated approach, KAIROS enhances local capacity and strengthens the impact of gender transformative approaches needed to tackle the triple nexus.
This is a fabulous opportunity for you in the networks to learn and engage and be involved in global justice. During the 5 years, partners will come and visit different parts of Canada, and a few people from Turtle Island will have the opportunity to go and visit partners in their context.
In DRC, South Sudan, Palestine, and Colombia, our partners operate at the intersection of climate, conflict, and gender. Their innovative solutions and responses are essential for addressing the economic and socio-political empowerment of women and girls. With this project, we strive to achieve sustainable and equitable societies with long-lasting peace and fairness for all.
So I know that was quite a bit in a short amount of time, and I'm not sure if the sound was great for you with the video, but that again, you can watch again later. And we look forward to your continued support with all of these programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Shannon. So we are just a little bit after our end time here. So I'm going to do a quick prayer to close. As long as we're okay to keep the Zoom meeting open for a little bit, I'm happy to stay on and chat if anyone would like to. But I want to make sure we can wrap up for those that do need to head on to do other things with their day. So I'll just close with one more prayer from the Laudato Si prayer book. This one here. So this is supposed to be a prayer for the morning, a kind of a prayer you can say as you wake up, but it feels appropriate as we kind of hold all of our hopes and all of our grief that we've been talking about, all the things that we're working on, and as we kind of head into the darkest part of the year for most of us, to still hold this in our hearts as we go forward. So, prayer upon awakening. Every morning, good morning, life. Easter is renewed. I leave behind the darkness of my gloom, and your light dawns in my core. My eyes awaken from the slumbering sleep that briefly calmed the pain of the peoples. In dreams, I forgot my troubles and tasted a little of your new wine. The powerful light of dawn dispelled the reverie, and clarity returned in the face of so much mourning. Every morning, good morning, life. My Easter is renewed. The whole creation awaits my yawning of renewed strength to begin anew. My eyes awaken from slumbering sleep, filled with your light to look without fear. In vigil I will carry on my new shoulders the fragments of life of the beautiful forests. Amen. So I hope this has been an enriching and grounding time for you. I know it has been for me. So again, for those that, if anyone wants to stay and chat a little bit, I'm happy to stay on the call for a little bit. But for everyone, I hope that you can take some seeds of inspiration from this to carry into our Advent season and to carry a light through the winter and to carry that Jubilee joy into a new year.